So I think we're allowed to talk about this Rob Reiner thing, right? How the commoder-in-chief told one of his interns to post something stupid, and they did, and now everyone is shocked that he said something stupid. I gotta be honest, the media cycle around the Tangerine Toddler confuses the hell out of me, because I learned about narcissistic personality disorder back in, I want to say 2013, 2014. Before then, I had a vague understanding of abusive personality traits, but nothing as refined as I do now. The weird part is every time he says something stupid about a new topic, you get this march of supposed journalists who are like, wow, this is a really bad thing to say. And then a bunch of other people who are like, well, is it really that bad? It kind of reminds me of what you hear in a locker room. And it's like, the dude doesn't look like he's been in a locker room as long as I've been alive. It seems like with this one, he's getting universally canned, which is kind of funny because, like, was it a horrible thing to say? Yes. Is making someone else's violent passing about you instead of what actually happened? And is it a sign that someone isn't qualified to lift a fry basket at a drive-thru, let alone hold trade talks that influence the largest economies in the world? Sure, but it's just narcissism. This sort of thing is weird for a normal person to say, but it's entirely normal for a narcissist to say. And he's been saying this stuff for years. So what's different now? Well, there's a few things. One, I think people are getting tired of him playing games with the stock market. The ruling class really cares about the stock market. It's generally an indication of how happy they are. And I think they've gotten really tired of the roller coaster and they want to get off. They like to pretend that the stock market actually means something, and he's been making a joke of it. Honestly, I think they've been wanting to get off since the summer, but they haven't had a big enough of an excuse to get rid of him that they've been willing to use. Because keep in mind, I think a lot of them have known about the files for a long time. It's worth noting, I don't think the rich ever wanted the files to come out because way too many of them are in the files, and they never wanted to know what their friends got up to because, quite frankly, a lot of them get up to some really shady stuff, and they're kind of just used to not thinking about that. Because when you realize that all of your friends either hunt people for sport or do horrible things to kids or pay people to fight in off the books, like a very large number of them do the sort of things that seem comical when you see them on TV. Everybody kind of knows that. When you have more money than you should, you eventually start doing things that you shouldn't. Because quite frankly, if someone is actually a billionaire, particularly someone who became one of their own, I don't want to say work because nobody works enough to become a billionaire, but somebody who didn't inherit that money, they're not a good person. Like, in order to get to that point, you have to kind of cut out that part of you that isn't comfortable exploiting other people and not paying them what they're worth. Now, I'm not saying that all billionaires have the sort of proclivities that get you put into those kind of files, but if you research abnormal psych, you do learn that an inordinate need for control is a prerequisite for all of the worst kind of conditions that we normally lock people up for when they're not rich. I think especially as it becomes more and more clear that the files are going to get released, I think you're going to see more and more people stop making excuses for his malignant behavior. But brace yourself, because until he is actually removed from office, things can and will get worse. You're going to see a lot of people think that all they need to do is apply pressure to him to get him to behave, but that's not how he works. If you try and just cut off a hydra's head to grow back in its place, you can't just maim someone like him. You have to remove them from the equation. There has to be no coming back. It's got to be something where they remove him for like a medical reason that disqualifies him from ever holding office again. They have to impeach him in a manner that would prevent him from running for office again, or they'll need to make it the heart attack look like it was natural. But it'll have to be something like that before we finally get to move on.